The International Criminal Court issued international arrest warrants for Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant for war crimes. In Mexico, a new migrant caravan left Tapachula city in the state of Chiapas, headed for the center north of the country to cross over the border to the United States. And the Russian president stated the Ukraine conflict has acquired a global character after the recent missile attacks launched by Ukrainian military with US-made long-range weaponry. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. After months of deliberation, the International Criminal Court ICC issued international arrest warrants for Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant for war crimes. The warrants announced on Thursday were issued for crimes against humanity and war crimes committed against the Gazan population from October 8, 2023 until at least May 20th of this year, following the court's rejection of two Israeli challenges to its jurisdiction. The warrants come some 6 months after the ICC's chief prosecutor Karim Khan applied for them and later urged the court's judges to urgently rule on this request. In addition, in a separate statement, the court announced that Hamas Mohammed Deif was also subject to international arrest. Regarding the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Gallant, the ICC stated that the chamber found reasonable grounds to believe that each bear criminal responsibility for the following crimes as co-perpetrators for committing the acts jointly with others: the war crime of starvation as a method of warfare, and the crimes against humanity of murder, persecution, and other inhumane acts. And the chamber also found reasonable grounds to believe that Mr. Netanyahu and Mr. Gallant each bear criminal responsibility as civilian superiors for the war crime of intentionally directing an attack against the civilian population. In this context, the European Union's Foreign Affairs Chief Joseph Borrell stated the arrest warrants issued by the International Criminal Court are binding and should be implemented by all state members.
It is not a political decision. It is a decision of a court of justice, of the International Court of Justice. And the decision of the court has to be respected and implemented. So I take note of the decision of the International Criminal Court to issue arrest warrants from Prime Minister Netanyahu, the former Minister of Defense, Mr. Gallant, and the Hamas leaders, Deif. This decision is a binding decision, and all states parties of the court, which include all members of the European Union, are binding to implement this court decision.
Israeli occupying forces mounted 2 raids in the Gaza Strip, killing 88 Palestinians so far. In this regard, Israeli airstrikes on a 5-floor building claimed at least 22 civilian lives, including 10 children in the Sheikh Radwan town in Gaza. In the aftermath, rescue teams worked intensively to recover bodies from under the rubble. Likewise, on Thursday, Israeli forces hit a residential area in Bet Lahia, killing at least 66 people, most of them women and children. The death toll adds to the over 44,757 Palestinians killed by the Zionist regime since the onset of its genocide in October 2023.
The airstrike targeted 4 floors, and a large number of corpses and injured had been transferred. We saw a headless woman here, and we are conducting a recovery process. We are moving her body to the hospital, while we have been trying to recover her head for over an hour, but due to the lack of capabilities, we haven't managed to recover it.
The Israeli army continues its escalation of violence throughout the Middle East, with warplanes from the Zionist regime issuing new rounds of forced evacuation threats for Lebanon's southern Tyre district amid heavy bombardments. Precisely, the military bombed Al-Haush village as well as a building in the city shortly after ordering residents to leave. While no injured were reported, the attack on the edification located on Abu Dhabi Street caused severe material damage. In this context, as the Israeli forces continue targeting Lebanon, the regime's Arabic language spokesperson informed on Thursday they would be bombing the neighborhoods of Haret Reik and Hadath in Dahije, the capital's southern suburbs, threatening Beirut residents for the third time in 24 hours. In this context, amid Israel's military attacks in Palestine and Lebanon, the Zionist army keeps targeting the historical city of Palmyra in Syria, killing 36 people and wounding more than 50 others. According to the latest toll issued by the nation's defense ministry on Wednesday, the most recent airstrikes on the Al-Tanf area of the central city are reportedly the deadliest in Syria in a year. In this regard, the country's foreign ministry condemned in a statement the brutal Israeli aggression, which reflects the continuing crimes of Zionism against the countries of the region and their people. The United States Senate has rejected 3 resolutions introduced by Bernie Sanders to block the sale of certain weapons to Israel to continue its attacks on the Gaza Strip. 79 senators voted against resolutions calling for a ban on the sale of tank ammunition, high-explosive mortar ammunition, and the sale of kits to transform unguided bombs into precision-guided weapons. Sanders denounced that these are all weapons that have been used with devastating effects against civilians in Gaza and Lebanon. The senator defined the humanitarian crisis in Palestine as apocalyptic, assuring that what is happening is being done with U.S. weapons and with money contributed by the government.
Madam President, I would also point out that poll after poll shows that a strong majority of the American people oppose sending more weapons and military aid to fund Netanyahu's war machine. And I would also mention, interestingly enough, that according to a poll commissioned by J Street, this is a pro-Israel organization, 62% of Jewish Americans support withholding weapons shipments to Israel until Netanyahu agrees to an immediate ceasefire.
And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Mexico, a new migrant caravan left Tapachula City in the state of Chiapas, headed for the center north of the country to cross over the border to the United States. The caravan included at least 1,500 migrants from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Colombia, Haiti, among other nations. The sixth group departed on early Wednesday from the Bicentennial Park, a usual migrant meeting point. Some travelers expressed their willingness to reach the U.S. border before Donald Trump takes office on January 20, 2025, due to the likely tightening of migration policies.
We had to leave in this caravan because we ran out of money. We didn't have a penny. That's why we couldn't afford to pay the bills here, as we didn't have the needed resources to stay here. We need to keep moving forward to cross over the border. And, well, thank God this caravan materialized. Right now, we just hope that we all get there safe and sound, with God's help.
In reference to the recent G20 summit that took place in Brazil, the president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, highlighted during her morning press conference that the foremost affair tackled at the gathering was the call for peace made by several countries.
In this case, the G20 summit held in Brazil had many guests, invited countries not belonging to the G20. Therefore, it can be described as a multilateral meeting, as many countries came. So I think it's paramount to call for peace at this crucial time. Fortunately, Mexico was not the only country urging for it, but also many countries, namely from Latin America, as well as other regions worldwide, advocated for peace.
Uruguay's presidential elections come to an end on Sunday, November 24th, and the people will finally elect new president and vice president. The presidential candidate for the Broad Front, Yamandu Orsi, assured to have the governability to promote the transformations that the country needs as he closed his campaign for Sunday's ballot on Wednesday. On the other hand, the presidential candidate for National Party, Álvaro Delgado, also called on Uruguayans to think about who they would want to be in charge if there were a new crisis.
We have the Senate that is ready to go out and do what we have to do, to legislate, but also, and more importantly, to govern in the way that our country needs. We have the conditions to take charge of our country, and we have the conditions to continue to work on the basis of agreements, but also with a firm and determined attitude to carry out the transformations that the country needs.
I feel that I am prepared, that I have the experience, which is non-transferable, but also that I am tested, and that I have a team that supports me enormously to give Uruguay guarantees in stormy waters or in calm waters. To give it direction, to give it protection, to give it security, to give it certainty, which is what Uruguayans want.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Russian President Vladimir Putin stated on Thursday the Ukraine-Russia conflict has acquired a global character after the recent missile attacks on the Kursk and Bryansk regions launched by Ukrainian military with US-made long-range weaponry. This way, Putin stressed it is impossible to use such weapons throughout Russian territory without specialists from the countries where they were manufactured in. In this regard, he alerted the US government is pushing the world towards a global-scale conflict, stating it became the force that destroyed the international security system. In addition, the Russian head of state confirmed the successful November 21st strike on a Ukrainian military-industrial facility using the latest Russian medium-range system Oreshnik, which existing missile defense systems are not able to intercept. The Russian president assured his country prefers peaceful means, but is prepared for any development of events.
We consider ourselves entitled to use our weapons against the military facilities of those countries that allow their weapons to be used against our installations. And if there is an escalation of aggressive actions, we will respond with equal determination and proportion.
The Australian government on November 21st sent to Parliament a bill to prevent children under 16 from accessing social networks such as Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram and X, among others. The regulation endorses on digital platforms and not on parents or young people the obligation to take reasonable measures.
social media has a social responsibility. We know they can and should do better to address harms on their platforms. That's why we're making big changes to hold platforms to account for user safety. The Online Safety Amendment Social Media Minimum Age Bill 2024 will amend the Online Safety Act 2021 by introducing a minimum age of 16 to have an account on age-restricted social media platforms, protecting young Australians at a critical stage of their development. The bill puts the onus on social media platforms, not parents or young people, to take reasonable steps to ensure fundamental protections are in place. This is about protecting young people, not punishing or isolating them, and letting parents know we're in their corner when it comes to supporting their children's health and well-being.
The Meteorological Office in Iceland notifies the eruption of a volcano on the Reykjanes Peninsula at the southwest of the country, where several volcanoes are aligned. The Icelandic Meteorological Office notifies that although no infrastructures are affected, precautions are being taken due to the volcano eruption, evacuating the fishing village of Grindavik, which is located in the vicinity of the crater. Although volcanic activity had been dormant for 8 centuries, it reappeared in 2021. Iceland has 33 active volcanoes, the largest number of them in Europe, and the recent eruption marked the 7th by this volcano in 2024. A severe storm hit the northwestern United States with high winds and downpours, claiming at least 2 lives. The deadly phenomenon, which has been called a bomb cyclone, led to widespread power outages for some 530,000 locals. The 2 deaths reportedly occurred on Tuesday evening after trees fell at a homeless camp in Lanewood and at a house in Bellevue, eastern Seattle. In response to the situation, the Weather Protection Center issued risk warnings of heavy rainfalls and hurricane-force winds throughout Friday. The French government has issued orange alert for 54 out of the 96 metropolitan departments for the snowfalls and gusts that the Gaetano storm is already bringing about. The Meteo France agency has set the second highest alert level in the country as a result of snowfalls and black ice hitting the northern region. Furthermore, experts forecasted likely gusts of up to 100 kilometers per hour will occur, with particular impact on the Atlantic coast. In view of the impending landfall of Gaetano and the worsening of weather conditions, local authorities took preventive measures, banning the circulation of heavy loads and establishing a speed limit of 20 kilometers per hour on highways. With films, scripts, posters and film in production, the Cuban capital will host from December 5th to 15th the 45th edition of Havana Film Festival, the international festival of new Latin American cinema. The director of the event, Tania Delgado Fernandez, pointed out that it will contemplate a wide range of works from 42 countries with a special representation of Latin American audiovisual creations. She also mentioned that the space will be dedicated to Argentinian cinema, its evolution and current situation. The festival receives films that have been screened at other events around the world, but it is also the time to premiere regional cinema wonders.
Este año no nos va a decepcionar y tenemos como les decía, un amplio abanico de temáticas.
The festival this year will not disappoint us, and as I was saying, we have a wide range of themes. Alberto, the main responsible for the organization, said it already. He mentioned in his interview that there are different themes, but that this year is the same as last year. Themes such as children and youth, family issues, and violence are recurring in recent years in Latin America. And that has a reason. They see the reality, they approach reality from different angles. I cannot fail to mention that there are also very important historical themes.
The first two episodes of the series 100 Years of Solitude, inspired by the work of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, will have their world premiere in Cuba at the Havana Film Festival. The director of the event, Tania Delgado, announced that the screening of the series is scheduled for December 6th at the Central Yara Cinema. In this sense, the audiovisual adaptation is considered an unprecedented production in Latin America. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.